Hello and welcome to Heavy Metal WRX. My name is Wace, and today I wanted to take some time to look at a couple of cars that a lot of people talk about. And I'm probably going to discuss a few different cars over the next 2 or 3 weeks because there's a lot of competitors to the 2022 WRX, or now in this case the 2023 WRX. And if you're looking for a car that's under $35,000, you have a lot of options actually. One of the options that we're going to look at today is the Civic SI. So there's some similarities between the WRX and the Civic. And a little bit of background, I actually used to sell Hondas way back in the day. Back in, I think it was like 2005 or 2006, I used to work at Gilman Honda down in Houston. And they actually had 2 sister stores right next to them, one for Mitsubishi and then one for Subaru. So you can say that during lunch, we would actually have an S2000, an Evo, and an STI going to lunch all at the same time. If only back then I knew what I know today, it would have meant a lot more to be around those cars. But in essence, what are we looking at? We're looking at 4-door sedans, 6-speed manuals, turbocharged engines. Now, how they do all of that, this is where the nuances come in. If we look at something, we'll start with what we know and what this channel is built upon, and that is the WRX. The WRX, for the longest time, has come with a boxer engine. It is now the F824, which is a 2.4 liter. If you don't know any of this stuff, it does come with a 6-speed. It does come with a continuous variable Subaru performance transmission now, which is a modification of a CVT, I guess, if you want to call it that, whatever you want to call it. You do have all-wheel drive, symmetrical all-wheel drive with a viscous center differential with open front and an open rear differential. That's what we got with the WRX. Now with the Civic SI, you're looking at a 1.5 liter inline 4, also turbocharged, also with a 6-speed only actually. It is front wheel drive only, but it does come with a helical LSD. Now, way back when I was working at the Honda dealership, I believe it was like the 2005 Civics or 2006 Civics had just come out, Hondas and Civics, and this was the first year the SI started coming with a limited slip in the front, which made the car, actually made it handle very well. I remember they actually took us down to a track where they had set up these very tight corners, and they basically made all the salespeople drive each car as hard as they could to see if the car would lose grip or if it was uncontrollable, and it was admirable, you know. And so you see the way that they're putting the power down and the way that they're driving there's going to be differences. Obviously, all-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive. The WRX is making 271 horsepower, 268 pound-foot of torque, versus the Civic's only making 200 horsepower, 192 pound-foot of torque. I say only, but weight kind of is a factor here. You know, the WRX is coming in at the lowest of 3,297 pounds, 3,297 pounds. The Civic SI is coming in right at 2,952. So there is a little bit of a weight difference, but I don't know if it's enough to overcome 70-ish horsepower, or what we know now from the dyno, it's very close to about 70-ish horsepower, which is a good amount of power. Now, there's a couple of things that we'll look into here and now I'm looking at the WRX base model. We're not looking at any of the trims above it. We wanted to make this as simple as possible, with just what is the least amount of money that you can spend on this car versus the other car. The base model for the WRX versus, I believe, is actually just one Civic SI trim. I don't think there's a trim above it. There's some options that you can get, which we'll talk about here. So we'll start with just the way that the car is built, the exterior. There's a couple of things that that I'm glad that Subaru changed for the WRX from the VA series, which is adding slightly better headlights, which was a big deal. But the way that I have this set up is, what does the WRX come with and what does the Civic SI come with, and then we'll see what the differences are. Now, I'm going to be talking about these cars with as little bias as possible. I know that my channel is a WRX channel, but at the same time, I also only have an X amount of money to spend, and if I was to spend it, these are the cars that I would look at. I think Civics are fantastic. I probably would have got a Civic SI at one point in my life. It just never happened. So both of them come as a 4-door sedan. I don't believe that I looked everywhere. The Civic SI used to have a hatch, and I think no longer you can get a hatch in the SI version. I think only the Sport and the base model come in a hatch. That may have changed since the recording of this video or is changing later. So on the WRX you get base 17-inch wheels with summer tires versus the 18-inch wheels on the Civic SI, but they are all season versus summer. Both come with LED headlights, which is very nice. I think every car, no matter what trim, should come standard with LED headlights. Heated side mirrors are not available on the WRX. The base WRX do not come with heated side mirrors, whereas the Civic SI does. Big plus for them. One-touch moonroof, standard on the Civic SI. No moonroof at all for the base WRX, obviously. I didn't see any fog lights for the Civic Si anywhere on there was no options to add anything like that. The base WRX does not come with them, so that doesn't really matter. So that's like the base, those are like some of the basic things that I would look at. You look at wheels, you look at headlights. Many people kind of care about sunroofs. I don't. I originally had one, but I think it just takes up more space and weight. It's not really relevant. Next we look into the interior. This is something, dude, this is actually like a really good point because people have actually mentioned this, is the Civic Si comes with sliding sun visors. And I know that is one issue that even I have in the WRX sun visors. There's obviously no sliding sun visors in the WRX, but the sliding sun visors kind of, the regular sun visors just suck already. I don't know how else. It's like no matter where I actually angle it, I can't stop the sun from getting in my eye. It's very annoying. So you got push start in the Civic Si. WRX base does not come with that. Are there no heated front seats for either car? That's for whatever reason. I think actually when I was looking this up, the old Civic SIs I believe did come with it, and the new ones for whatever reason didn't. There's like this whole forum post about how like that's a big deal. The steering wheel. Obviously the WRX does come with a D-shaped steering wheel, which is leather wrapped. The Civic Si is a round steering wheel, also leather wrapped. Very cool there. So not much really changing in that department. I think unless you sit in it, I think you will notice that the Civic is a little bit narrower, so you'll feel like it's a smaller car, but the creature comforts, I've actually sat inside of a Civic Si. I haven't driven one yet, but it's very comfortable. I would say the seats are probably a little more comfortable than the VB seats for the 22, but they're way more comfortable than the 2021 WRX seats, so kudos to Honda for that. Now comes up to this section about technology. This kind of throws in everything. This is more for just like creature comforts and just quality of life, so you know, your sound systems, you know, the little knobs that you can touch inside the car, safety features, which this is a big one. The safety features, when we get to that, that's a really big one because I've got a lot of things to say. This list on the WRX side is going to be very short. So interior-wise, as you know, the WRX does come with this new dual 7-inch screens, whatever they're doing with it. I really don't. They could have made it look a lot better. That's a subjective thing that has nothing to do with this. In response to that, the Civic Si does have a 9-inch screen with 12 speakers. I believe they're coming with Bose speakers and a subwoofer, whereas the WRX only comes with a 6-speaker set, which are nothing to write home about at all. The WRX does not come with rev match, whereas the Civic Si actually does come with auto rev matching, which is kind of cool. If you're into that, I do believe you can turn that feature off. There is so the speedometer is, there is a 7-inch driver screen, info screen in the Civic Si. The WRX does have analog speed and tach, but it does have a smaller screen in the middle. I don't know how big that is in the middle, but it does have, like, it gives you your basic information, like boost is there and stuff like that. Now this is where things start getting really interesting because I didn't know all these things about the Civic Si when it comes to these features. Now remember, this is a manual car, so we're going to talk about some of the safety features. Oh, a couple of more things before we move on to that. Android Auto and CarPlay. This has been a big issue with the WRX. Both cars do come with Android Auto and CarPlay, but they are not wireless. They're actually both wired. There are aftermarket options that you can get. Like I actually have one here still. This is terrible. They've been actually asking me to review this for a very long time. It's not a good product. I'm not even gonna talk about it. But so they're both plug-in Apple, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Both of them come with two USBs. They're 2.1 amp USBs. I believe both of them are in the front on both. I know that higher trims on the WRX do allow you to have more, but the base only has two. And that's it. So at this point, we're not even going to talk about the WRX. Now we're going to talk about just the Civic SI. And these things, there's only one optional feature that I saw on their website about safety, and that is the blind lane indication system, which the WRX doesn't even have. Unless you go with the automatic, you don't get any of these things that I'm about to talk about that come in the manual Civic, which this is very important. This is very important because if Honda can do it, everybody else should be able to do it as well. And I think actually many other cars do it. I think Subaru is the only one that doesn't do it with manual cars as of yet. And that is things like forward collision warning and auto braking, which is very interesting. If you think about it, you have a manual car that actually comes with this system. Now, the WRX does have it. You do need to pick up the automatic, and that's their eyesight system. So all of these features I'm going to refer to do come with the eyesight system, but you cannot get it in a manual car. The forward collision warning and auto braking, big deal. The park distance sensor, which I think you should be able to put that in a manual car. There's no reason you can't put it in there. And so the Civic comes with it. We don't get it in the WRX. Semi-auto driving and lane assist. This is really cool. My wife's Volvo has it. Obviously, it's not really necessary, but I mean, when you have these cars, you are not racing them 24/7. If you are, that's a different story. But for most people that are buying these cars, they're buying them for their fun, and they also have like really cool features. And then adaptive cruise control, which is also a very nice feature that they were able to incorporate some of these things into a manual car. The WRX manual has none of this. All of these features, minus the blind lane indication system, is standard on the Civic SI. Now, all of these things combined, the Civic SI still starts at $28,500 versus a base WRX comes in at $30,605. That's a pretty big difference. So if you were looking for just, it's so hard to say because like they're both really cool cars, and I don't think that the Civic SI is like that much slower than a WRX, but like if you're looking for a performance sedan, you have a family, or you just need a little bit more creature comforts, these are both really good options. Obviously, we're not going to look at aftermarket support and all that stuff because I don't think at this point that's really relevant. That can be something that we can talk about at a later time. But if you just walk up to a dealership and you see two of them, you see a Subaru dealership on your left and you see a Civic, a Honda dealership on the right, I believe that no matter which direction you go, they're both really good cars. But they do things just a little bit differently. Obviously, all-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive. Do you want more creature comforts, or do you want more? Do you want the all-wheel drive? Right? I think that's kind of where it ends up coming down to, because besides those things and just like the power output of the engine, you're getting a very similar car, for all intents and purposes. So for this price, I mean, the Civic SI is a very attractive option. Then there is the Civic Type R, but that ends up going past like our arbitrary $35,000 number or whatever you want to say. You can't even get those at MSRP at all. So that's just never going to be an option. So the Civic SI is really where it's going to be. I don't think that it's a bad choice at all. I don't think any of these cars that I'm going to be talking about are going to be bad choices. I've actually seen people who have bought a 22 WRX and then later say, you know what, I really like the 22 WRX, but I love the Civic SI, and so that's what I went for. But then also we've seen people who have had a Civic SI and said, well, the creature comforts are kind of cool, and I like all that, but I don't really use a lot of them, and I just want a little bit more power, and I want the all-wheel drive, and so then they switch over to Subaru. They're both great options. This video is not about ragging on one or the other, and I know that there will be some inherent bias towards the WRX, but I'm trying to be as objective as possible. There's reasons that both are good, and there's those reasons I can see people buying either car. So I will be doing this for more cars because there's tons of them. And eventually I do want to talk about aftermarket support for some of these cars as well. It'll end up being a very long video. So we're going to look at these in just stock form. You got like a $34,000, $35,000 loan from your bank. You're just going to go buy a car. What can you get? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative. If you're cross-shopping these two cars, it's a tough one. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one.